Hello and welcome to Aurora Republic Surface Combat Training. Tonight we're going to be covering basic and intermediate skills in FPS combat. That's first-person shooting combat. We have these practice sessions every Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. Combat Kitty says it's very important that you follow instructions when you're out there and keep your head in a swivel. I want you to approach this as a realistic simulation. Don't think of yourselves as gamers. Think of yourselves as elite special forces soldiers. You have equipment, you have night vision, you have top-end operators working with you. Realistically immerse yourself in the action. Use your senses. Look around and constantly assess the situation for positioning yourself to be most effective. Don't just look at the first thing that comes up. I don't want you doing that. Keep your focus on your objective. If you see something moving, you don't necessarily have to go look at it, but you should call it out. Just like Gary Busey said in the movie Soldier.
Well, maybe you should have made him smart instead of fast.
That's right, Gary. Smart instead of fast. You want to be the soldier that can look around and assess a situation, not necessarily charge forward. Sometimes you have to do that, but you're constantly assessing the situation. So now we're going to get into the meat of how that works. The first and most important thing is teamwork. We're going to be covering a lot more of this in the future with technical documents and examples, but teamwork is absolutely more important than player skill.
What would you say you do here?
Number one is to stay with your team. Don't run off ahead of them. If you do, make sure you let them know. We're going to be using a numbering system. For instance, on the Alpha team, there'll be Alpha 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. Bravo would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. If you do have to move up, let your team know. Secondly, when you're moving, your eyes should be looking in different directions like these guys here. Unfortunately, none of them seem to realize their guns aren't loaded. They're in a training exercise, no doubt, but their eyes are looking every direction. Even though they're up against a wall, they're still fanning out their vision. This makes a team extremely effective. Being out there on your own, somebody's going to pop their head up on your left or right side or behind you and shoot you right in the head while you're standing there. So it's important to stay with your team. Let those other eyeballs work with you and work with each other. The more we practice that, the better we'll get at it. And we have been seeing improvements lately. Second is to follow your lead's orders. Your lead is there to make sure the mission succeeds and that you get out alive. He is going to be doing an overview of the combat. He's going to be giving you orders to go places and do things in certain ways, and you need to listen to your lead and follow that. Second is proper communication. Now here we have, let's say, Bravo team 1, 2, 3, and 4 in a box formation. Use short calls, but don't say, there's a guy over there. And we're going to demonstrate this right now with Matthias. He's in here with us. So Matthias we're going to move forward, and we're going to have a pretend enemy come up on his left. And he's going to use the call Bravo 3, enemy left. Okay, Matthias, let's go ahead and do that. Moving up. We're moving up, and you're going to see an enemy.
Bravo 3, contact left.
Okay, now that will tell the team, as we're moving forward, that enemy is on our left. As we're moving this way, there is an enemy on our left. He did that clearly and concisely. You don't need to do a bunch of words. There's a guy over there behind that thing. If the team can't see him, or he doesn't get taken out, or depending again on the situation, you shouldn't need much more description than that. So the enemy came up on the left, and Matthias made that call. Fourth thing is keep your eyes out. Sweep around all the time. Matthias, let's demonstrate that. We're going to move towards this forklift. You don't want to always look forward. You kind of want to look in different directions. Where could that enemy be hiding? What's the best place that they would be? Over there, in that door, behind that car, in that hallway. That's the more than likely places they're going to be. Maybe up in that patio, in behind that window over there. They could be anywhere. Generally never want to be where we're at, which is out in the middle. You always want to be in the corner somewhere under cover. We're going to cover that extensively in the advanced series as that comes along. So always keep your eyes out. The two forward guys should be looking somewhat forward and off to the left and the right, and the two rear guys should be looking basically like this pie chart shows, to the left and right and back. It's difficult to do. You're going to be looking back every now and then, but generally you want to fan your eyes to the left and the right to cover the flanks of the team. Number 5 is if you die, you failed your team. You weren't being careful enough, and now your team is weak. They have to tend to you, whether that's getting your body out or helping you or calling in medevacs. It's much more likely that they're going to fail. If you have a 4-man team, they're down by 25% on their strength in their eyes. It's a big problem when you die. Don't do it. Stay in cover. Take effective shots. Become a good soldier with your weapon. Alright, some basic skills. Kneel when shooting. So, Matthias, you're going to see an enemy there past in that hallway. What are you going to do? Kneel and shoot. Makes yourself a smaller target, and it makes for a much better shooting experience. Also, this game, which is Sandstorm or Insurgency Sandstorm, has a feature where if you hold down the shift key, you'll zoom in and hold your breath, and you can shoot much better that way. Everybody should be doing that. You should be kneeling, aiming, holding down your shift key, and then firing. You get pretty good at it with a little bit of practice. It's just one of the basic skills, but anything that's more than 50 feet away, you should be doing that automatically. And over a period of time, you will do it automatically, and you'll become a much better shot because of it. Diagonal movement, that's the next one. So when you're walking, you don't necessarily all the time want to be looking forward. You can hold, I'm holding down my W key, but now I'm holding down my E key as well. So I'm walking in a diagonal pattern. I can look over to the side while I'm still moving to the front. There's forward, there's diagonal. There's forward, there's diagonal. Diagonal. It also lets you keep your target, your pipper, on your target while you're moving diagonally to the target, and it allows you a little extra options as far as not becoming a target and making yourself harder to hit, as well as maneuvering around things. Instead of turning away from the target to go around something, you could just move diagonally or even side to side. Get used to not just holding down your W key. You should be moving using side to side movement and diagonal movement as much as possible. The front back flip. This is a common thing done. Matthias is going to demonstrate it. Basically, you just, while moving, you just turn around. The other way, Matthias. Move, turn. Move, turn. Now that's terrible, but you want to snap that around really quick. And again, with practice, you'll learn how to move your mouse hand just perfectly every time. As you're learning to shoot, a good thing to do, by the way, is zoom in on a round or telephone pole, something like that, and just practice shooting it while you're moving to the side. You don't even have to shoot, but practice using your hand, picking up and setting your mouse back down while you're holding on to a target, while you're circling around it. It'll help you become a lot more proficient in shooting and maneuvering around. It also helps build your hand-eye skills. Focus when shooting long would be the hold your breath option. Some games have that, some games don't. Most do. It's in Sandstorm, it's the shift key. Again, it looks like this. When you're scoped in, hold shift, it zooms in a little bit. Without it, you get a lot more muzzle rise. With it, you get a lot less. gun is dramatically more stable, and you can get way more hits that way. Adjust your controls to suit you. Okay, now Sandstorm is a unique program, or game I should say, that it has many different settings for your controls. Now here I use a 2x scope, so you'll have overall scope sensitivity, aim down sight sensitivity, which would be more like for pistols or what's called iron sights, if you're just using the iron sights of the gun, and then your general look sensitivity. Your general look sensitivity is when you're not aiming, you're just kind of moving and firing from the hip. You're not using a scope or iron sights, you're just shooting from the hip. Your scope or 2x sensitivity, if you're carrying a sniper rifle, 4x, 7x, those can all be changed in this game individually, which is nice. I tend to not use mouse smoothing. It tends to make your gameplay a little muddy, so most people don't use that anymore. Area control versus timing. This is something I've been teaching for a really long time. It's not taught in real world, but what it is let's say Matthias is going to be here at this corner. I'm going to pop out from behind this thing, and oh shit, there's Matthias shooting at me. Now, I have two choices. I can go back out there and get shot at, or I can reposition myself. I can reposition myself and take him by surprise. What this means is he, in this scenario, he controls this space. He controls this corner that I am peeking out of, but what I control is the timing. So I can pop out. He doesn't know when I'm going to do it, but I am controlling the timing of this, even though he has the God, it's annoying. He has the control of the corner. So you want to try and reposition. Don't hold a bad location. If you have a bad spot, don't try and keep it. Reposition yourself. I call it shoot and scoot. And that brings up the next subject. Oh, no, sorry. Reload and cover. So Matthias is going to demonstrate this. He's going to take some shots at a guy, and then he's going to reload and cover. So let's say you're at these boxes, Matthias. So I'm going to take some shots, get back into cover, and reload. Maybe even reposition. Sandstorm is a very good game where the AI is going to come after you. They're going to frag you, and they're going to throw Molotovs at you and all kinds of stuff. So you don't want to hold a corner too long in this game, and you definitely don't want to reload out in the open. You always want to reload away from where people can shoot you. You can always reposition. Standing there in front of enemies reloading is a sure way to get yourself killed, and it happens to everybody, but in the heat of the moment, you have to try and get the cover whenever you possibly can. Okay, they can hear you. This is one having to do with the sound. So basically, if you're running, they can hear you running. Basically, want to move fairly slowly, exceptions being when you're moving from cover. So let's say we're here. There's some guy out here. I don't know where he is. I'm going to move over here, but I'm going to move that quickly. But if you're infiltrating into an area, you want to do that quietly. So let's say we're coming into this doorway here. Matthias and I are going to want to do that quietly. Take point. Now, once we're in here, we're in battle, then we could move quickly and make all the noise we want. But if we're infiltrating into an area, we want to do that quietly as possible. But once you're in combat, move to cover quickly. You can kneel down after you're in cover, but get to that cover fast. You should never be standing out in the open like this. It's just not a good idea. All right. Lead shot moving tango. So what that means is when somebody is running across you, it's also called beaming you, you should have your pipper in front of them. Go. Right about there. Yeah, I hit him. So, don't put your pip right on him. Do it again. That won't hit him. You'll hit behind him. Be just a little bit in front of him, depending on the distance. The farther away, the more you're going to have to lead him. Just like shooting birds with a shotgun, same exact thing. The bullet needs a split second to get there. You're going to have to figure that out. It's geometry. Or is it algebra?
Friendly fire! Friendly fire!
Alright, cover versus concealment. This is always a fun one. So, let's go in the office. Big block wall is cover. Pottery is not. And neither are these cardboard things. Office workers always think they can take cover behind these. Get right there, Matthias. Yep. But he's taking fire right through that. Every time. Oops, that's not good for Twitch, but you can hide. This is concealment, and then something like this would be cover. It's a thick wall, it's bulletproof, it's explosion proof. But something like
What the fuck is wrong with you? Something
thin and incapable of providing cover is not going to cut it. Case in point, these guys here, this is two sniper teams. The guy at the bottom is a sniper. This guy's a sniper. The guy on the right here is his spotter. He's there to protect him and to help him get eyes on things. The spotter tends not to have as good of a scope and will have a shorter range combat rifle, where the sniper will have a longer range rifle. These guys all have really good cover. They're well protected, they're behind bulletproof items, and they're in pretty good shape. These guys here are using concealment. They're hiding behind a bush. They probably won't get seen at a couple of 100 yards, maybe 300, depending on what kind of optics the enemy has, but this will give them zero protection, obviously. So that's cover versus concealment. Generally, whenever possible, always, always, always be in cover. Using cover instead of rock'em sock'em robots.
I am invincible! Invincible!
I see this all the time. You don't want to be standing out in the middle of an open area shooting at some guy that's shooting back at you. If you can't hit him in the first volley, take cover immediately and work it out later. You never know what's going to happen. He could hit you in the head, his buddy could come out, somebody else could shoot you. Don't get into a protracted fight out in the open with somebody. Changing cover, aka shoot and scoot. We were demonstrating this earlier. Basically moving from cover to cover. Take a shot and then move around, try another angle. Keep the enemy thinking of where you could be. This has to do with the area versus timing control. If that enemy sees you at this corner, he controls that corner. If he sees you first, if you rework the timing, he doesn't know exactly when you're going to pop out on him. He has an idea, but he has to keep swinging his head back and forth to cover those two corners. So you're keeping him guessing, and you're increasing your odds of survival. Whenever they see you at a corner, especially in Sandstorm, they're pretty much going to hit you with some kind of an explosive. So good idea to shoot and scoot. I'm a big believer in shoot and scoot, and I'm a big fan of it. So I want to see you guys doing that. Team leaders, you should be moving your team generally quite a bit. You shouldn't be sticking and camping at one place. You tend to get killed that way. It's a good thing to keep moving. Limit your lanes of fire. This is another one that if you're out here, your lanes of fire are very, very wide. You have this door, and that opening. So that's 4 lanes of fire that anybody can shoot you at from any one of those lanes. Ideally, you'd want to be someplace more like this. Now you have something behind you that's possible, but you have a nice narrow place here where you can fire out of. Maybe increase it to here, try and reposition to get the best angles. This would be a better spot over here. You have this lane you can shoot at, or down this hall. or up those stairs, but you can also fall back into cover, bulletproof cover, very, very quickly. You can also fall back out of here and get back in there if you have a nade or something come in. Immediately come back in, reposition yourself. Don't be afraid to reposition. Very important. In CQB, close quarters battle, statistics are against you. So you always want to try and maximize anything you can do to win. Working those corners. So again, we're going to always work these corners. Don't just stand here waiting for the enemy. And if you're in a heavy firefight, don't be afraid to pull back. Always reload and cover. If you're doing this as a team, the two of us popping in and out like that is causing a lot of confusion for the enemy. You know, who's going to pop out first? So, right. No. And then we'll take turns shooting. Reloading.
I'm loading.
And then I'm up. So there you go. And he's reloading while I'm firing. We're sharing the load. It's a very effective combat tactic. Armies all over the world use it. Front to back movement, we pretty much covered. That's the front to back flip. Just to cover your six, the people in the back of the team in the box formation are going to be doing that a lot, and you'll get pretty proficient at it. Don't be afraid to turn around. Keep your head on a swivel. Always be looking. Listen for the enemy. Sometimes you'll be sitting there, you won't know where the enemy is, but they will, you'll be able to hear them. Footsteps, talking, maybe loading their gun. They're listening to you, so you need to listen for them. Sometimes when you're firing, you won't be able to hear things. It'll deafen you a little bit. This game doesn't really use headphones to good effect, but hopefully that'll get fixed in the future. But listen for the enemy too. It's if they're moving, they're more likely to get killed by you. Your weapon selection. This is another good one. Now in a map like Ministry where we're at, this is what's called a close quarter map. Matthias and I both have MP7s, very short guns. The reason we have that is so as we're working these corners, we can be right up on these walls. If you have a longer gun, you're going to have to stand back further. It's going to cause other issues when you're in a hallway. Let's say we're over here, and I have a longer gun. Well, now I have to take up Matthias's spot behind me for cover because I can't get as close to the wall because I have a longer gun. In a close quarters mission like this, you generally want to kind of have a shorter gun. The bullpups are really good for that. The MP7's an outrageously good gun for close quarters. It puts out a ton of bullets really quick, and it's extremely light and maneuverable. The bigger guns are heavier. They will have to be farther away from the corners when you're maneuvering, and they're also slower to bring up to scope. So you'll have some big disadvantages with the larger guns in a close quarter battle area. Muzzle attachments. We can put different muzzles on the larger guns. It's a good idea to use compensators on your barrels. For night operations, we'll be using suppressors and night vision, of course, but suppressors are almost required for the covert missions we'll be operating with. We're going to be doing a lot of that. We're going to become a specialty special operations unit, and we'll be doing a lot of night operations very quietly, covert action. Reload speed. The MP7 is super quick to reload versus a drum mag on a bullpup weapon, which takes 3 times longer to reload. And you get 10 more rounds because of the larger caliber, but the little 40 round magazine on the MP7 is a super quick reload, where a drum mag is super slow. So that will get you killed, having those big drum mags, and I know all about that. Rate of fire, of course, different weapons will fire differently. The MP7 is a super quick firing gun, very good for close quarters. You can put a lot of bullets in people from an inch away. Where the larger guns tend to fire a little slower, they'll hit harder because of the larger bullets, but rate of fire will lay down a very closely spaced spread of bullets. If you're panning your gun around trying to hit a moving enemy or something. I use that technique a lot. Spray and pray. I am Captain Spray and Pray, so I will lay down a field of fire for the enemies to run into, and hopefully take them down, or several of them, depending if they're clustered, and that that burst will be held down for longer or shorter, depending on how many guys I'm trying to shoot at. Weapon length and weight, we already pretty much covered that. The smaller weapons will have smaller bullets, but they'll come up to bear quicker, and they'll be much easier and quicker to turn. So for close quarters battle, again, you want to have a smaller gun. For fields or longer range battle, you'll definitely want to have a larger gun with a larger, longer bullet and barrel. Speaking of your rifle is your primary weapon, and I want you to own it. I want you to practice with it. I want you to do circle drills around telephone poles. I want you to do long firing. I want you to do all kinds of different, learn how to control the recoil on your gun, and just get really good at your gun. You've got to be a good soldier, and your primary weapon is your gun. Using frags and Molotovs and all that are a much less effective option. They have their parts, but we're going to go over that. Your scopes are totally up to you. I personally like a 2X. I think it's a good combination of not being too zoomed in. Not that great for large, long distances, of course, but I can use one in close quarters battle, and I use a 2X on everything I use. Lasers, you can switch those on and off with H. There is no stealth in Sandstorm with the lasers, but you can turn those on and off if you prefer. If you're going against other human players, which we will be in Star Citizen, you do not want to have your lasers visible to them. Same thing with a flashlight. Front grips are almost essential in any video game. They will massively reduce your vertical recoil, so your guns rise when you're firing. All guns should have a front grip on them. It's virtually no reason. The exception would be to have a 40mm grenade launcher on the front. Again, compensators, flash hiders, suppressors. Flash hiders will help the gun not to give away your position. Suppressors are an essential thing for nighttime operations, and compensators will really help with the larger guns on the muzzle rise, especially in full auto. Dial in those mouse settings. The game should adjust to your hand, not your hand adjust to the game. Okay, frags. Oh, one last thing I want to cover. This is something that I see some players doing. Most players are pretty good about it, but when you're just moving along, I don't know if you can see my pip, but your gun should always be level in front of you. So if somebody came out from around that corner, I could blast them right there. I get the first shot on them. They'll be coming around this corner with their side to me, and because my gun is level, I'm going to nail them right off the bat. Instantaneous fire. And that's because my gun is always positioned for these doors. Whatever I'm going around, it's ready to fire. Right there. Right at chest height. I tend to fire right at the navel and let the gun ride up the center of their body. Not always effective, especially against body armor, but get in the habit of making your gun level. You shouldn't be looking down. You should be looking right where, if you're using diagonal movement and such, which I am right now, it's hard to see it, but I'm actually maneuvering around these corners using diagonal movement. That diagonal movement will help you make those corners better. When you come around a corner just using your W key, that split second that you expose yourself while you're still turning and walking forward, you're vulnerable. If you use the diagonal, I'm actually sliding to the right while I'm going around this corner. And what that does is it helps my body, gives me a little tilt to the right. Kind of pre-turns my body a little bit so I have a better angle as I come around there. Alright, that's good. Alright, so frags. They can be used for three things. One, let's find a room here, Matthias. Yeah, we'll do this. Okay, so there's going to be an enemy, let's say right here, around the right. Matthias is going to what's called cooking a frag, and as he does it, he's going to do a few announcements so that his team knows what's going on. So he'll say frag up, and then he'll drop the spoon. That'll start the timer cooking the frag, and he'll say hot, and then throw it after about 4 seconds.
Throwing frag!
And boom. So I'm going to demonstrate that now. Frag up, hot.
Frag out!
What I did was I counted to 5. As soon as I pulled that frag, I'll demonstrate it again, and I'll count it out this time. Frag up, hot, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Frag!
Okay. Do it again, Matthias. Matthias has his mic muted, so okay. Frag up.
Frag up.
Oh.
Hot.
Throwing a frag!
Oh. Now you can use these frags to confuse the enemy, to remove them from a defensive position, obviously to kill them too, and to scatter them. When they see that frag, the first thing they're going to do, just like the first thing you're going to do, is run. There's no defense from them. They're going to kill you, so you have no choice but to move. They're a very effective tool for that. To cook your nades, it depends on how you want to throw it. You left click and then right click. After you right click, that releases the spoon from the frag, and it will blow up 5 seconds later, basically on the count of 6. When I do it, I will release, 2, 3, 4, throw, boom. It'll blow up on the count of 6. I start the count at 1, not 0. It's just personal preference, but practice that. It's a very, very effective way to clear a room that's very hard to get to. Most rooms in any kind of battle are very difficult and very, very risky to take down. A frag is great for that. And a properly used frag will do a miracle of taking a position. Molotovs, other things you can use. Molotovs I'm not a fan of. They tend to blind your teammates, especially at night. They should never be used. They're also not very effective, and they can get you killed quite a bit too. In this game, they're actually not very effective at all against the enemies. Pretty annoying. Smoke is an effective thing. I'm not a fan of it, but it does work. I like to have vision personally, but smoke will work, and there are some people that like to use it, and it is a valid technique. Flashbangs, extremely valid when we're going to be entering a room, especially with hostages or somebody where we can't kill everybody in the room. We'll be covering that under teamwork. Gas masks you will need to use, and they will be, if you're getting smoke or toxic gases put on you, you'll need to have your gas mask equipped. And that is it. Thank you very much for watching. Appreciate your time, and we're going to see you on the field. Any questions, we'll see you in Discord, and feel free to ask any questions you'd like. Thank you very much.